Welcome to Community Chats, bringing you stories and insights from the heart of Community Living Toronto, a nonprofit organization that proudly supports people with intellectual disabilities and their families. We will focus on stories of belonging and inclusion and topics of interest from communities across Ontario and the world. From uplifting moments to breaking barriers, from innovative policies to ideas from leading thinkers, we continue to advocate for inclusive communities and support the rights and choices of people with an intellectual disability.
I'm Brad Saunders, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer at Community Living Toronto, and welcome to our Community Chats podcast. This is an opportunity for us to share and learn and understand from each other. These podcasts are released each month on the 15th and the 30th, so please listen, like, and give us your feedback. These are one of the ways that Community Living Toronto wants to stay connected with you, and we value your feedback. I've had the privilege of working with a dedicated, passionate, and professional group of colleagues here at Community Living Toronto, and today we're talking with one of them. Juanita Forde is a longtime employee of Community Living Toronto who's used her skills in a variety of roles, ranging from supporting people live full lives in their community to helping other staff in their roles, as well as assuming positions with CUPE and Community Living Toronto's CUPE Local 2191. I think you'll enjoy this conversation where we cover the importance of self-care, how Juanita got into the role, where she finds time to take care of herself, and a number of other areas of her journey as a direct support professional in the developmental services field. Please enjoy this conversation. Juanita, thank you for joining us today. Glad you could take some time to chat with us.
Thank you for the invite.
All right, so we're going to cover a bit of ground today, talking a bit about yourself and your role within Community Living Toronto and some other endeavors that you're involved with that are really impactful and people will love to learn about. Maybe we can start off by you telling us a bit about yourself.
I'm Juanita. I'm a mother of two. I've been in the service field for 15 years. I like to travel every single moment I can get to just have away peaceful Zen time. And I love music, classical music preferably.
Oh, really? Travel, where do you have a favorite spot that you try and get to, or what's your preference?
New York and Miami are usually like the quick go-tos. Miami when I need a beach because I have family out there. New York when I just need to escape really quickly because I have family there.
Very good. And also with young kids, easy to get to quickly. You don't want the
I leave them home.
Oh, okay. Also another good approach. Excellent. Now you've been involved, you say you've been involved with care providing for about 15 years now. Can you tell us about how you got into this work and what drew you to it and what you've done in the field?
Very prudent. So my mother has been with this organization for, I believe, almost 35 years. And so she used to work at Lawson. So when I was done school, sometimes I just take the bus and come meet her after work, play with the kids in the respite program. And it was just like an ongoing thing for me. I think I mostly got attached to them when I was expecting my first child. And one particular resident, Daniel, I was just in awe with. Like, I just loved him. So I always wanted to come back and see him. And he thought it was fascinated that I was pregnant. So one day Gary was like, "Oh my gosh, do you work here now?" And I was like, "No, Gary, I do not work here. I'm in college. I'm going for like accounting and finance and legal office." And he was like, "Oh, well, I see you so often. I thought you worked here." And then he was like, "Have you ever thought about applying?" And at the time, I was going through like every single book in the yellow pages to try and find a law firm to work at to get the hours, but they're all unpaid.
Right.
So I was like, let me just take this on. So I did the summer program with the City of Toronto and Community Living.
Yeah.
And I did it together and I did it for 2 months. And that was with
That focused on literacy and reading, right?
No, the summer program was with the City of Toronto when they first started integrating children with special needs. with children that didn't have special needs. So they
Okay,
were
great.
number one.
Inclusive summer
Yeah.
camps kind of thing. Excellent.
Yes. So that was Wendy Dyke that put me
Mm.
onto that. Loved Wendy. And then after that, I was like, I think I like this. Dropped
And
out
that
of
was it. You were
college,
sold. You were
and
sold.
that was it. I was sold.
Excellent. Excellent. So with your career at Community Living Toronto, what have you been involved with? What programs have you worked with?
So I've been at day programs and I've been in residential. And I did some one-to-one when we had the youth to work
Yeah.
program. At those three specifically, I was in.
And if you've stayed with this career for 15 years, you must like it a lot. I can see the smile, and you've been quite dedicated and drawn to the people aspect of the work. Talk about what the work involves for you as a direct support professional and how that's changed over the years.
Giving those who subconsciously don't understand what a good, meaningful life is. I think, I don't think, I know what I loved about this job was allowing them to do fun things, whether it be what I thought was fun to find out what they liked or what they liked before that was fun, if they could vocalize it, or just giving them new things to try. There really is no limitations to what they can do. So my head-on idea was always to just give them like the best quality of life, having daily activities, learning life skills, and being able to be independent to an extent.
Right. Excellent. Now you've also in your work become involved with CUPE in various roles. Can you talk about that?
So about 6 years ago, I joined, 6 or 7 years ago, I joined the Health and Safety Committee and the Equity, Equality, Diversity Committee. And that's how I started going through the union base and then eventually different chair positions. And now I'm the lead steward. And then going through like education with CUPE Ontario. And that's what got me into like the national level to be like a facilitator. And now I sit on the executive board for CUPE.
Excellent. I want to ask you about two things. One, your role as you said chief steward, lead steward, and also you started out with the Health and Safety Committee. What does the Health and Safety Committee do? What's the purpose of a Health and Safety Committee at an organization like Community Living Toronto?
Just to ensure that everyone's safety is a priority at the workplace. More so to ensure that the environment in which we work in is both safe for ourselves as the staff members. The residents are covered under ministry, but just as staff, we come together with the management side and the frontline workers side, and it's a joint committee to ensure our health and safety at work.
So you would be involved in how do you ensure that? Is it going out to programs and visiting and site visits, or what's the process involved? We don't talk about our Health and Safety Committee a lot, so I'd love your thoughts on that.
So we do have boards that are supposed to be posted, but we also have an easier access online off of SharePoint, a nice little quick click. But we do still have some with boards that are not so tech savvy.
Yeah.
But also we do the inspections twice a year, just making sure that if anything isn't immediate to be fixed, down to a staircase or a banister that's a bit shaky, that we make sure that those things are kept on top of. So collectively, as the workers and the committee, we ensure that all the repairs that need to get done for the homes are done, but also the individuals that we serve, making sure that we meet the criteria of the proper training. Do we have the proper training to be working with the individuals? And also with the inspection piece, we also make sure that, like, the furnace, snow, all those little nitty-gritty things that people don't think about actually happens in the background collectively.
True, because in addition to being a place where people live, especially residential programs, group homes, are places where people also work. So they need to be a comfortable and safe place for a person to live, but they also need to be a safe place for a person to work. So that committee really ensures that.
Yes, we do.
You talked about your role as the lead steward, chief steward. Talk about that. What's involved there?
So that's just our collective agreement with both the employer and the union. We come together and have things that we agree upon, down from hours of work to union business, to pay, to sick leave, uh, down to vacation and stat holidays. So my role is just to ensure that all of our staff are following the collective agreement. Should they have any issues with the collective agreement, they would notify myself. And if and when any next steps have to be taken, the union does make those steps
You're
in the
involved with that.
process of agreements. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Switching gears a little bit, you in your work have been recognized for some of the work that you have done. And last year, you received the Care Provider Leadership Award from the Canadian Centre for Caregiving Excellence. You were recognized, I was at the dinner, you were recognized at their gala dinner in Ottawa for, along with a number of other award recipients. How did that come to pass, and how did that impact you as a person that's dedicated so much time and energy to this line of work?
So CAMH started reaching out looking for DSP workers with Sue Hutton and, oh, why am I drawing a blank? My gosh. We're gonna go with Sue Hutton. And
Okay,
so across the board, we have at least a representative from each province. And monthly,
right,
we get together and we discuss our issues, our outcomes, how we could better be a workforce, how we can come up with things collectively. Because in this province, we will call it support workers or developmental support workers, but in other provinces, they have different titles. So our objective is how to be recognized across the board as one.
right.
And so we meet every month, except for the 2 months in the summertime, because everyone wants vacation. And through that was with CCCE, and we just became their DSP fellowship group. So it's almost like an advisory committee, if you would say. Yeah.
And this is Dr. Yona Lunsky's work that you're involved with. Is that
Yes.
the name you were trying to think of
Yes.
earlier?
Yona.
Yes. Okay.
She'll kill me if
Perfect. We
she hears
got
this
it.
podcast.
Not at all. She's very gracious. So that work has exposed you or involved you with work that's happening across Canada. What are the similarities that you've found, and what are some of the differences? What stood out to you as you've interacted with your colleagues from across the country?
Similarities, we love the job. We all have that passion to give them a better life. The differences are definitely just how we work. I guess our ministries are a bit different. I noticed that in other provinces, they have a lot of higher independent individuals, as opposed to
Okay.
here where we have wheelchair bound down to, yes, being independent. So we have a larger scale, I would say, in Ontario than some of our other provinces. Also, I think also here in Ontario, we deal with a lot more of the mental health as well,
Right.
whereas in other provinces, they have programs just to help people become more independent.
Right. Okay. And so the award, was it, how did that impact you in your work? Has it further inspired you, or what did you take away from that experience?
The award, the award was great. I mean, any award is great when you get one.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, somebody recognized the work that we're doing. It was a surprise to the DSP fellowship because we were sitting down at the table and they're like, oh my goodness, I wonder who's going to get this award. And I was like, I know. And I was playing the part. And then they called my name and they're like, you bugger. And it was
Yeah.
great.
Oh, that's fun.
It was well received. And I believe Sue had put in a nice little word as to why I should get it. So
Right.
not often do we get recognized for the work that we do, or do people really understand what
Yeah.
goes into the choices that we make to wake up every day to go to work.
Right.
So that was a good representation of not just for myself, but a lot of us DSP workers to put us on the map of what we actually
Right.
do recognized.
Excellent. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Well deserved. Now the CCCE also did a status report on a report on the status of caregiving and care providing in the country, and you were featured in there, and you talked about some of your experiences in both as a direct support professional, but also things that you'd seen working with colleagues in your role within CUPE. What would you like to highlight there? What are some of the things that you mentioned in that report that really stood out?
Caregiving is easy said than done. The work that we do in this association or across the board, I would say, is the same work that we turn around and go home and do for our loved ones. So there are many times where you're exhausted, you are definitely burnt out. You definitely want to take that break, but there's that fight to keep going because
Right.
someone depends on you outside of your own children and your own family. I consider them my additional family. There's no way I couldn't
Right.
in this type of work that you do. How do you not get attached? You know? But it's there's definitely an easy burnout. Definitely an
So
easy
you're
burnout.
you're you're providing care at work to people, and then you're also providing, in your case, care at home to your kids. And many people are in that situation where they're caregivers at work and care providers at home.
Yeah, and when we talk about mental health and well-being, everybody wants a job that's just one job and get paid an amazing salary so that that's it and done. And you can make time for other things. But the economy itself this day doesn't allow for that. So people tend to get burned out faster because they have multiple jobs to provide.
Right. Now, you also talk in the report, you talk about systemic change that you'd like to see, and also the issues around salary of people who are care providing in the country, kind of across the board, certainly in the developmental services sector, but the same could be said around educational assistants and PSWs and that. There has been some investment that our province has made in for PSWs and developmental services professionals in the last number of years, but it hasn't always kept up with the rate of inflation or to raise the bar so that you're further ahead. What are your thoughts on, or what's your experience been around rate of pay and advice that you might have for funders or for us as leaders in the sector around that?
Yeah, I would say across the board, and most members could say this, is that the DSP work is forgotten. People don't know about it. People don't think
Right,
that this exists. Unless you have a loved one that seeks the services or you provide this type of service, we are definitely a forgotten sector. And I think history has shown that we have been a forgotten sector when it comes to the government. And that's just because of the type of funding that we receive and how long we have to wait to receive an
right,
increase in funding. Not
right,
to say that other sectors are better, but other sectors have had movement and have had increased funding and have had increased programming, whereas us in the developmental sector, we don't. We're still one of the lowest paid sectors and we provide that
right.
public service and it needs to increase. If we're to
Yeah,
provide a service for those in care, we also need to have a service where someone cares about how we go home at the end of the day, how we can pay our bills to turn around and come back. So
yeah,
my thing to the funders is the funding is needed. It's 110% needed. And when you think that this is enough, by the time you blink and 12 months come, more is going to be needed, right? We're
right.
receiving so much more people in service, which is great, but the funding sucks for the individuals and staffing for sure.
Great. So we were involved in a campaign in the last year around with Community Living Ontario called hashtag Five to Survive. And so many organizations across the province were struggling with funding allocations and keeping up with collective bargaining settlements and pay for other staff, increased costs of everything. I mean, inflation had run rampant, and we did an analysis of the last 20 years, and our funding allocation had increased by less than 5%. Inflation was up north of 45 or something like that. There was an investment that was made this year in the neighborhood of 3%. It was a good signal from the province, and we really hope to see more, because I agree with what you're saying. Costs keep going up year after year, and when you invest in a sector like supporting really vulnerable people, it's important to keep up that fund level of funding, because you're putting people at risk if you don't.
Yep.
Um, Excellent. What are some other systemic changes that you would like to see in the sector? You talked about DSPs and developmental services work often being unrecognized, underappreciated. Are there things that you learned from your involvement with the work across the country would that you would suggest that we look at in Ontario or at Community in Toronto? And along with that, what are some of the tips that you use around keeping your own mental health in good shape, and things that you do to provide care, take care of yourself?
So around the globe, it's starting now where we're seeing reflection of frontline staff in our management as far as like our supervisors,
Right,
but we could still go a much longer way within all organizations, including CLTO, to see racialized management, to see
right.
racialized senior management. And I'm talking about like an influx where it's like, it's obvious. You're walking into a room, and I always say when we ask for a seat at the table, it's not because we think we should be there, but it's because our life experiences are different and we all
Yeah,
feed off of each other and we're all teaching each other something at the exact same time. The point is to share the experiences. And when we're in this association, it's just like a lot of our senior management have never worked frontline before, but they're
right.
great doing the role that they've been doing. But how about one day coming and seeing what it's really like? So that can impact you and impact your decisions. But I've used our EAP system quite a few times to get through.
EAP, just the acronym. Do you want to spell that out? Employee Assistance Program?
That's correct. And I've used it a few times just because, like, dealing with death in the association after you've been caring for someone for a long
Yeah,
time, dealing with financial struggles when you're trying to make things better, and just dealing with, I guess, mild depression from time to time because you're hoping
right.
that something great will come and it doesn't come. I think that's why sometimes it's great to take a pause. It's great to just go away. And that's what I find myself trying to do more and more is
Right.
whatever little chance I can get and whatever little cheap flight I could see, I just make myself vulnerable to that to just do it
Because
because
so
that's
much,
really
yeah. So much of your work involves giving of yourself, and not just sort of showing up and doing something, but also you want to relate to others as humans, and people, and that can, and again, as you're one of the nice things about the work that we do is that you're involved with people over the course of their life often, right? So I've been involved in this sector a long time, and I've got people that I've known for decades that I'm still involved with. We're involved with the parent and then the child and then the siblings later on, which is great. The downside to that is you see people at the best times, but also at some of the most challenging times. And that sticks with you, and certainly has an impact.
for sure. I tend to sometimes refer to this work as long-term care for people with intellectual and physical disabilities. And I say that because we really do provide the long-term care, exactly like how you said, from child to adult. We have a lot of those people in our service. And at the same time, it's providing the emotional support and physical support. People
Right.
just pay attention to the physical support because they see it happening, but emotionally, psychologically, a lot of things are happening. Like, sometimes you walk into work and it's not the staff's best day, but
Right.
you want them to push through. So you're picking up for them and you're still going to go and you're still going to do the best you can do. But that's where a good team comes in, obviously, when you're at sites and locations where it's great because you're
Good.
supported.
Excellent. Excellent. Um, we're just about out of time here. I wanted to ask you if you had any final thoughts before we wrap up, and then I've got one final question before we do that. Anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't cover?
Sure, if you want to flip this over to the Ministry of Developmental Services for Social Services, I think it's time that the government tries to meet with those that actually do this work and hear our stories. And hopefully that will make an impact on their decisions when it comes to funding.
Yeah.
More so, to me, I think of it as that's more hands-on. Sitting down, having
Right.
a conversation is more hands-on than just making the assumption through policy and practices that things are needed or not needed.
Right. Right. Good. Final question, and we ask everybody this. Um, we're an organization that focuses on neighborhoods and communities, and people where people are valued, and they feel like they belong. What does belonging mean to you?
Belonging means to me that I can be myself no matter where I am. If I can stay true to myself and be with people that genuinely, like, our staff in this sector are there to care and provide and support. That's what belonging means to me.
Excellent. Juanita, thank you for all the years of work that you've done, both with the organization, but across the sector, supporting people. I didn't know the piece around Gary Pruden having recruited you, so I think that's kind of cool. He's been an excellent recruiter, now retired for several years, but his family's also gotten involved in the work that we do, as was his mother. So it's good to see that you came in through a really cool channel into the organization. Thanks for your leadership with the work that you're doing across the country with CUPE, and congratulations on the well-deserved award last year. Excellent to see. Thanks for taking the time today.
Thank you. Have a good one, Brad.
You too. Working in the caring profession requires one to give of themselves. It can be deeply personal work that gives you both the privilege of developing a relationship with a person as they go through life, but it also takes a toll. And it's very important as we do this work that we find ways and approaches to taking care of ourselves. I really appreciate Juanita taking the time to share her experiences with us and how she's found a way to balance both her life and her work to function well as a mother and as a staff and as a member of her community. Thank you for joining us, and see you next time.
Don't forget to join us next time as we unpack the power of community through collaborative initiatives and shared experiences. Available on Buzzsprout, Spotify, Audible, and YouTube. Follow us on social media at CL Toronto. Let's chat, share, and spread those good vibes together. We hope these discussions will inspire you and give new ideas to add your voice to our mission of making our communities and neighborhoods inclusive and welcoming.